Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about special right triangles that have the measures 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. So how this works is I like to call this the 30, 60, 90 shortcut. What they do in this case is they're going to give you one side only of your triangle, and from the one side, because of the special relationships that these 30, 60, 90 triangles have, you will be able to find the two missing sides of the triangle. I have 3 examples for you when they give you one of each side. So note that in my triangle, the 30 degrees, wherever it is my shortest side of my triangle, and it's going to be across from what we call our A value. Okay, the 90 degrees is my biggest, or is my largest angle, and my largest side is always across from my largest angle. So the 2A is always across from your 90 degrees. And your 60 degrees is going to be your medium angle, which is going to be across from your medium side of the triangle, which in this case is going to be A times the square root of 3. You'll notice, because each of these sides have an A in them, once you can find out what your A value is, then you can solve for the rest of the sides in the triangle. So here are the 3 examples. We'll start off with the easiest one. Okay, first, I want you to find the 2 missing sides, so we'll call them X and Y. Okay, and notice that you're given the side that's across from the 30 degrees. So the first thing I always do when I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle is I draw in my triangle shortcut. I just try to draw it a little teeny, and I draw it in the same orientation, means it's facing the same direction. So this is going to be my 30 degrees, this is going to be my 90. Across from my 30 is my A value. Across from my 90 is my 2A, and across from my 60 is A times the square root of 3. So literally I'm going to match up what's the same. I notice that the 6 matches up with the A. I notice that the X matches with A times the square root of 3. I notice that Y matches with 2A. So I'm going to literally write out all these equations. So 6 matches with A. X matches with A times the square root of 3, and Y matches with 2 times A. Okay, now one of these equations tells me what my A value is. This first one right here. Okay, so I know that my A value is equal to 6. So then what I can do is wherever I see an A in the whole rest of my problem, I can fill it in with a 6. So that means that my X value is equal to 6 times the square root of 3, and you can leave your answer just like that. And your Y value is equal to 2 times 6, and you know 2 times 6 is equal to 12. So to solve for X and Y, we now have X is equal to 6 times the square root of 3, and Y is equal to 12. Okay, let's move on. Problem number 2. I'm going to draw in, I notice that I have a 30, 60, 90. I'm going to draw in my orientation, so I'm going to draw in my shortcut triangle. I'm going to face it the same way that my triangle is drawn for my problem. So here's my 30 degrees. Across from my 30 is A. Across from my 90 is 2 times A. And across from my 60 degrees is A times the square root of 3. So again, they want me to find the 2 missing sides. They'll be X and Y. So I'm going to set up my equations that are the same. So I notice that 8 matches with 2A. I notice that X matches with A times the square root of 3. And I notice that Y matches with A. Okay, so I'm going to write out my 3 equations. I know that 8 matches with 2A. I know that X matches with A times the square root of 3. And I know that Y matches with A. Okay, now, unlike the last one, this one I actually am going to have to solve. You'll notice that my first equation, this guy right here, A equals 8 equals 2A. I can solve and get A on the side by itself. So to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I get A is equal to 4. So now, wherever I have an A, I can replace it with a 4. So that means my X value is going to be 4 times the square root of 3. And my Y value is just going to be plain old 4. So here's my value for X, and here's my value for Y. Okay, last one. This is the hardest of the 3. So I'm going to notice that I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I'm going to draw in my shortcut in the same orientation in the way that my problem is written. Across from my 30 degrees, I have the a. Across from my 90 degrees, I have 2a. And across from 60, I have a times the square root of 3. If this is x and this is y, we need to solve. I notice that x matches with a. I notice that y matches with 2a. And I notice that 4 matches with a times the square root of 3. So I'm going to write out all these equations. X matches with a, y matches with 2a, and 4 matches with a times the square root of 3. Now I have to get a on a side by itself. This last equation allows me to do that. This is the hardest one. So to get a on the side by itself, I have to undo the square root of 3. So I'm going to divide both sides by the square root of 3. So I get 4 divided by the square root of 3 is equal to a. Now in math, we do not keep any square roots in the denominator, so we have to do what's called rationalize, which means I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom of my fraction by what my denominator is, the square root of 3. So I'm multiplying by 1, the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. So on the top, 4 times the square root of 3 is just 4 times the square root of 3. And on the bottom, the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. So that's how much my a value is. So now wherever I have an a, I replace it with 4 times the square root of 3. So x is equal to, 4 times the square root of 3 over 3. And y is equal to 2 times 4 times the square root of 3 over 3. And when I multiply my fractions, I multiply my tops. So 2 times 4 times the square root of 3 is 8 square root of 3 over 3. So here's my answer for x and y. Let me know if you have any questions.